Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Suhaimi and I am from BEX Asia, and I'll be hosting today's masterclass on pest control. Now, this is a very interesting topic for us today, brought to you by Pestbusters and, of course, with BEX Asia, the leading trade exhibition for the built environment in Singapore, happening this year from the 3rd to 5th of September. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I was putting together this masterclass today with my colleagues here from Pestbusters, it reminded me of a service learning project, service learning project I did 25 years ago when I was in university. Now, yes, I'm that old, where we were helping a school in Pattani, southern Thailand, to help build a school in Pattani, southern Thailand. And they were using wood beams to build up the schools. Wood was made from coconut wood. Uh, and a year and a half after that, we found out that the school was in disrepair because of termites. Unfortunate. But today's session, where does pest control belong in your construction plan, is actually a very good session for everyone involved in the built environment industry. Why? Because too often pest management is treated as a reactive fix when problems spiral out of control. But what if there is a strategic value to unlock when it is considered right from the start? In our current masterclass, experts from Pestbusters Singapore will walk you through the construction process and reveal how pests exploit your project at every stage. So the three things that you'll walk away in terms of insights will be how pests impact materials, work safety, and structural integrity, why proactive pest management saves time, money, and stress. I know life is stressful enough, and how to build pest control into your project even after completion. And through this masterclass, you learn how a tailored science-backed strategy is a smart investment for your project, reputation, and business. To take us through today's masterclass, I'm very pleased to have with us two experts from Pestbusters. The first is Paula Malong, Senior Director of Business Development, Pestbusters Singapore. Now, Paula drives Pestbusters Singapore's growth by redefining pest management as a high-value business investment. A De La Salle University graduate with expertise in high-impact marketing and business development, she recognizes that every business faces unique challenges and solving them demands tailored solutions that break free from the industry's conventional formula. Through her consultative, client-first approach, Paula is here to present pest management from a fresh perspective as a smart investment that delivers lasting value to your portfolio and reputation when integrated at every stage of the build. Joining her will be Rave Lee, entomologist and business development manager, Pestbusters Singapore. Very interesting job, entomologist. You don't meet a lot of them. Now, Rave is a skilled entomologist and business development manager with 4 years of specialized experience in pest control. An alumnus of University of Science Malaysia, Rave has successfully managed pest control strategies for private and government projects, optimized workflows through implementation, and led product trials of innovative solutions. Armed with his technical expertise in pest behavior and biology, Rave is a trusted partner for effective science-backed protection against pests through the stages of your construction projects. Now, I'd like to invite both Paula and Rave to come on line with their videos to say hello to all of us.
Hi, Sue. Thank you so much for the introduction. Paula here.
Hello, Paula and Rave. Do we have Rave also with us now?
Hello everyone, good afternoon to everyone. Hope everyone having a good day so far.
Yes, good day for everyone. I hope. It's gonna be a May Day tomorrow, so sort of a long weekend for those who are gonna be taking leave for on Friday, eh?
Correct.
All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can ask questions in the Q&A format using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we will address questions at the end of the session. Now, without further ado, let me hand it over to Paula and Rafe to take us through the presentations.
All right. Okay, so thank you again, Sue, for the introduction for Rave and myself. First, as Goldie from Antec shares the screen for presentation this afternoon, I wanted to thank, of course, the Built Environment Expo for organizing this masterclass for us. Of course, Rave and I, representing Fast Busters, were very honored to share an afternoon with all of you to learn a thing or two, hopefully more than two, about integrated pest management. Again, our master class this afternoon is entitled Building It Right from the Start. And our focus this afternoon is going to be about why proactive pest management should be part of every construction stage. Rave, are you excited for this afternoon?
Yeah, Paula, thank you for also sharing this. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is feeling well.
Yes.
For today's topic, we'll be building it right from the start. For this master
Yes.
list, I believe there'll be a lot of takeaways for our participants today because we'll be talking about common pests that you encounter in every different
Mm.
stages in constructions.
Yes. And speaking of construction, of course, we know that we have a lot of participants here from different sectors, may it be residential or commercial. And so I guess to kick it off, I have one question to all our participants right now. Of course, when you're developing, when you're constructing, what's included in your development plan? Now, typically, if you're trying to build something for absolutely anything, you account for, the typical items. Of course, number one would be your timeline. Of course, the length of time that you'll be building your property. Of course, budgets, the finances, those are very critical in terms of your development plan. And in line with that would be the materials, right? What will you be using to build your structures, your building, your residential property, your bungalow, and of course, the manpower. What's the manpower that would take? How many people would it take for you to build something? Now, typically, apart from these things, there are certain things that we forget to factor in. And the next question that I want to post here is really among all of these, where does pest control fit in? So Sue actually made a mention of it already earlier, right? Why are we even talking about pest control or pest management in relation to construction, in relation to development? And again, this afternoon, we want to place a lot of focus, a lot of highlight in terms of how effective pest management impacts material, work safety, structural integrity, with regards to your development plan at every single phase. And I know I posted two questions earlier, but now I have a mini exercise for everyone. Now, I want you to visualize your development, your plan. Of course, if you are the project manager, if you're part of the construction team, it's all about finding the right fit, the right place, that land that would be in pristine condition, the perfect location, right? But here's the thing, you can have the perfect plan, you can have the pristine condition visually that you see when you visit your site. But what you might not be aware of is that there is something lurking underneath that beautiful greenery. And to kick off our discussions in terms of pests that might be lurking underneath your soil or under your perfect greenery is Rave. Rave, what's the first pest that we'll be talking about this afternoon? Please go ahead.
Hi, Paula. So underneath this beautiful greenery lands, right, what we are seeing here in this video is actually a type of insects that we call them the subterranean termites. These termites actually, they live underground and they are totally invisible to our eyes. So also scary about this termite is that they are silent destroyer. They cause millions of damage annually. Okay, and what's the most interesting fact about them is that they have a caste systems. Okay, they have like a hierarchy. They have a queen and kings, which responsibilities is just to reproduce. Which the king, the queen, can live up to 20 years in the ground, which a lot of us won't have a chance to even see them. So in the picture you can see here, the queen is a lot bigger than the king, and its main role is just to reproduce. It lays over 1,000 eggs a day for 20 years. Okay, and then there are cases where you see there are workers' termites inside the house, and these are the ones that actually enter the house and cause damage into the property. And then there are soldiers' termites, which function is to protect the colony, and then there are elites, which the roles is to fly and produce and cause another colony's members. So among these greeneries, these are all hidden to your eyes. They are all underground, which you cannot see it. Okay. The truth is that termites can affect every phase of your construction's phases. When it starts to have excavation works or any groundworks, the termite nest will actually be disrupted and the colony will actually spread further away, forming what we call the satellite nest. And at the initial stage, you will actually not see it happening. It means that after 1 year of the construction completed, you will not encounter any termite problem. But when it comes to second year and third year, this issue become more prominent in newly built building because termite can travel to the foundations and also the pipe penetrations into the houses. Okay, just sharing from our experience, we heard cases whereby HDB projects or condo projects has termite on the ninth floor or even higher level. And why is that so? Because termite can travel up to 100 meters in search of food. Termites, they work around the clock. They do not rest. And workers termite, they are blind. They just work for whole life. Okay, that's why termite control is very important, especially if you encounter subterranean termite in the house. They can eat up the whole cabinet within 2 to 3 months. Can you imagine the damage that they cause? So what the termite eats? Termites, they prefer to eat soft wood. The reason why they eat wood is actually to get the cellulose inside the wood. Okay. And for this instance, why are we discussing this? Because we do actually recommend homeowners or constructions, developers to actually use wood that are resistant to termite. For example, they have mahogany wood, they are thick wood. This wood is actually resistant to termite. And also termite, there are different species of termite that we encounter. They are the subterranean termite, which are the most damaging, and then there are the damp termite, which you can find mostly in the forest area, and then the drywood termite, which you can also find in urban cities nowadays.
Yeah. So, thank you for that, Rave. Actually, I know you shared earlier, right, that you've encountered wherein termite infestation can go up. How many floors up, right, in a building? In fact, from my experience, just to share with everyone, I've experienced a case for a client wherein there was termite infestation at the penthouse, right? Can you imagine? It's like a 40-story building, and if subterranean termites live underground, they have the capability to penetrate up until the penthouse. So thank you for that. And so, termites are really one of the most destructive pests that we have here in the world, and most especially in Southeast Asia, and especially for Singapore, because our soil here is very prime for termite infestation. But it's not the only pest that can actually penetrate into your plants, into your development. And the unfortunate reality is that construction sites, actually not even just construction sites, but every type of property is susceptible to mosquito infestations, right? And especially for construction sites, because there's so many opportunities for breeding grounds, for breeding sites, mosquitoes can just establish an infestation level there. Now, here's a quick trivia for all of us. Did you know that mosquitoes only need 1 tablespoon of water to breed? So can you imagine, like, next time, or maybe later, when you're having dinner with your family and you're eating right with your spoon, can you imagine 1 tablespoon of water is enough for mosquitoes to lay eggs and actually establish an infestation in a property? So as you may know, here in Singapore, mosquitoes are actually heavily treated and regulated in our country. And The likes of even the National Environment Agency placed fines for poorly maintained and treated sites here in Singapore. But how deadly are mosquitoes exactly? So, apart from the trivia I shared earlier, did you know that mosquitoes are actually the deadliest animal in the planet? Yes, you heard that right. They are the deadliest animal in the planet right now. So, if we're dealing with the deadliest animal, how do we manage it? How do we treat it? So what you can see on the screen right now would be the mosquito life cycle. So Sue earlier joked about, oh, we have an entomologist here. So Rave is actually an entomologist. So his expertise is really in terms of pests, understanding the biology behind it. And at Pest Busters, we place a lot of focus in terms of science. How do we craft a treatment that's based on our understanding and the reality or the biology of this pest? So for mosquitoes, the full life cycle to get to adult is actually between 7 to 10 days. And the adult lifespan is an average of 7 days, with eggs laid per lifespan of about 300 eggs. So the next time you reach out to your pest controller, your pest provider, and they try and sell you, hey, mosquito treatment, we can do it once a month. Do you think that will be effective? Of course not. Why? Because we already know that the lifespan of a mosquito is about a week or 7 days. And in order for you to truly manage, to truly ensure that there won't be any mosquito infestations and dangers of chikungunya or even dengue, you have to make sure that you have at a bare minimum of once a week in terms of treatment. Now, is treatment or fogging or other methods the only way to control mosquitoes? Of course not. And during this masterclass, we also want to be able to share with you what are some of the best practices or the breeding sites that we can manage to ensure that you, your family, or even your workspace, your construction sites, or developments are well maintained. So, apart from at least once a week of treatments, solving mosquito challenges should be from the source. So, there's such a thing we call here, which is search and destroy. So, the thing about mosquitoes is that you have to treat it from the source, from the breeding ground, from the breeding sites. And in different developments, which is construction sites, or even in your own home, there are a lot of prime spots for breeding. And some examples can be seen on the screen right now. So, for example, if you have landscaping in your backyard, in your front yard, if you're living in a condo, in an HDB, in the surrounding perimeter, if there are dried leaves, and we already know that we have such a unpredictable weather right now. Sometimes it'll rain, sometimes it'll be sunny. There are opportunities for water buildup. And what did we say earlier? We just need 1 tablespoon of water, right? So if we're not able to clean up our gardens, our landscaping, our perimeter, it can be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Another example would be discarded items in planters. So this is a common challenge that we experience as a pest control operator whenever we do site visits, inspections, and audits. We're in There are discarded items like cups, bottles, bottle cases, etc. Right, and these can pose as the perfect breeding grounds for mosquitoes. Another one that we commonly encounter would be bamboo stumps or even for planters, the actual planters with a container at the bottom, right? So again, we just need very little amount of liquid for mosquitoes to lay eggs, and that can be very problematic. So we discussed termites underneath with mosquitoes breeding in our sites as well, right? So imagine again your development from termites lurking underneath, and now you have your mosquitoes coming in and establishing their breeding grounds. I'm sure there are more that we need to be mindful of. So maybe Ray, if you can share a bit about our next common pests encountered in properties.
Thank you, Paula. Just to share, mosquito is not the only flying insects that you see in different stages of construction sites. Actually, these insects is also very common in different stages of construction sites, which are the flies. These are the flying insects that is prominent, okay, especially from the start of the construction stages. So just to share, fly management is very important, especially when you start to have food canteen for your workers, because Housefly, they are known to transmit various diseases to humans, such as cholera, gastroenteritis. This disease can cause food poisoning. We have heard cases of construction site managers, they report that the workers are sick due to food poisoning, and it could also be due to poor waste management at sites. That's why flies management is very important to curb these health issues in construction stages. So speaking of flies, okay, they are actually attracted to various locations of decomposing materials. For example, if you are looking at the garbage area, there are different species, such as the house flies, we actually breed in this decomposing material. If in a construction site, there's a poor waste management systems, infestation is actually very normal without have a proper housekeeping practice. Okay. Also, if you look at carcasses, if there are dead animals around the construction sites, you also notice there's an increase of flash flies issues. These flies, they are attracted when they spot that there are dead carcasses. Okay. And what happens is that when these flies accumulates and then they actually cause like a health issues around the construction sites, because they fly into the locations and land onto food materials inside canteen. Next, let's talk about the management of flies. Okay, a lot of people think that chemical is the best solutions in any type of pest control, but that is actually wrong. For fly management or even mosquito management, like brought up by Paula, the best practice is actually to eliminate the breeding sites. What are breeding sites? Breeding sites are actually the place where larvae are bred by the adult flies. Okay, if we do not find the breeding size, there will be no end to this cycle because adult flies will keep growing from the larvae. That is why housekeeping is very important in flies management, coupled with also chemical control to kill the adult flies. For us, we do have a senior technicians who are specialized to identify where are the breeding site for flies so that we can use it to control the fly situations.
We also have another enemy in our construction site, and that would be the rodents, right? And these can be lurking in the perimeter or probably establishing their habitat already in your construction site.
So rats is actually a common pest, especially in different stages of construction site. In Singapore, there are different species of rat that you encounter. There are roof rat, there are Norway rat, and there are also house mouse. Okay. Specifically in construction site, you encounter this little creature here. We call him the Norway rat, or the brown rat, or even silver rat. Okay. This rat that you're seeing here is big. They are like half kilos. They weigh half kilos. They have very big face and they're short tail. Some even compare this rat to a little cat. And this rat that you're seeing here, they can live up to 18 months. Imagine what if there's no pest control plan for this site. The number of population will just go crazy without any pest control management in place. Okay. And what's so special about the rat that you're seeing here, the Norway rat, they have excellent swimming abilities. Okay, they can survive very harsh conditions. That's why even when it rains, rats will not be drowned. Okay, one of the most fearful thing about rat is that they reproduce very quick. From just one female rat, they can give up to 56 offspring. And from this family, within a year, they can reproduce up to 1,000 rats. Can you imagine that happening if, let's say, there's no pest control plan? There's 1,000 rat in the construction site, or let's not even construction site, in the commercial building. This number is very fearsome. That's why in every construction phases, pest control is actually mandatory by NEA to control the population of rodents and also other pests. One of the very interesting things, just sharing from experience, we heard that construction site managers, they reported that the machinery, there are often cases it goes wrong, it's not functioning, and we found out that there are cables being bitten by rats. Okay, why so? Rodents like rats, they have very sharp and front tooth which never stop growing. They need to keep chewing to keep their teeth sharpened. Okay, that's why there have been cases whereby wires in the air condition get bitten off, machinery, heavy machinery get bitten off, and this poses serious economic damage to the site managers and also the owner of the properties. That's why pest management is very important at every stages of construction site because rodent does not only stop at the beginning stage, it lives throughout the beginning until the end stages of construction. Okay, just one quick question. From these graphic pictures here, have you seen this before? There's a little hole here. This is actually what we call the rodent burrows. Okay, this holes here is actually built up by the rodents. If in every construction sites there'll be perimeter building, you will actually see these kind of holes being formed. These are not dug up by the snakes. Some people even joke that it's actually built up by the snakes. Okay, it's actually formed by the rats. The family of rats actually stay inside this hole, and at night, when there's no one around, they actually come out from this hole. This is what we call the rodent burrows, and this is used actually as an indication of the infestation level of rat at the site area.
Wow, Ray. So, I guess just to reiterate what Ray mentioned earlier, because the question could be like, oh, but what if it rains? What if it floods? Won't the rodents drown from it? So, if you remember, part of the biology of a Norway rat is that they are excellent swimmers, right, Ray? So, even if it rains really hard tonight, the Norway rats have a very high likelihood of surviving those weather conditions. Okay, so personally, me, Rave, actually, I've seen a lot of these already in my lifetime. Just walking around gardens, parks, walking around, especially in construction sites, there are a lot of burrows established by rodents. And it's really an indication of active infestation by rodents. Now, thank you again, Ray, for walking us through the biology of rodents and understanding their behaviors and how they survive, and how is it that they are able to penetrate construction sites and even properties. So now we go back to our development plan earlier. So imagine from the pristine condition that you initially planned for your property. So earlier it was all greenery, if you remember when you were visualizing it. And now we covered termite management, right? Termites lurking underneath, the subterranean termites living underneath the ground in the soil. We also covered mosquitoes and how they can establish a breeding site wherever there is about a tablespoon of water. We also discussed flies and how flies just love their garbage. So if you don't have the right housekeeping and sanitation practices in place, you just know flies will be there to really infiltrate your property. And of course, we also covered rodents, and how rodents can establish their colonies, their burrows, not just in the perimeter, but even find ways to enter into the building. So now, my question to all of us, especially to our participants in this masterclass, is would you be comfortable knowing that all these started in your property, right? And so, of course, the answer is no, right? Like, even for me, like, I don't want to live with the fact that just because I didn't maintain my property well, I didn't invest properly in terms of the structural integrity, the safety, and of course, the environmental aspect of my property, I do not want to be the source of infestation. And the thing is, all of these pest challenges can be effectively prevented and maintained, right? Because the good news is these can all be avoided. So what if we start over, right? So what if we were given the choice to know all of these already from the get-go? So maybe Rave, what if you walk us through what are the solutions that we can actually explore from start to finish in avoiding infestations from these common pests?
Yes, Paula, there are solutions. Thank you for sharing with us earlier. Remember earlier we talked about termite underneath, which are totally invisible to our eyes. Did you know that even before you build up your structures, there's actually a solution to protect future termite infestations? Okay, how do we do that? There's actually treatment to be done at the pre-construction phases. Okay, this is what we call the soil treatment or corrective treatment. This is to be done before the building is being erected. Basically, what we do is that we inject chemical into the soil. So this chemical will bind to soil and form a chemical layer, a barrier, which will be not penetrated by termite. And this will keep termites away from your building. Okay, that's for the first type of treatment that we have for pre-construction. Understand that Singapore is going to green approach. We do also have building materials such as stainless steel and tritle systems. For post-constructions, we do have a baiting system that is 24/7 active. What it means? It means that these stations will keep termite away because it works 24/7. The reason why is because there's a live bait inside these stations. This is actually the latest technology that we have. There's also the technology that we presented in the BEX exhibitions. For rodents, the common practice for any pest control company will be spot inspections. They'll be doing rodenticide laying. Okay, they'll be setting up cages. But at Pest Busters, we do have technologies of using smart traps. What is smart traps? Smart traps are traps that we use to be installed at strategic locations. And this smart trap actually let us know how bad is the infestation is, what's the population of rats at the locations, and also it enabled us to know what are the times that the rodent infestation is active. If we spot that even during the day the rat infestation is active, that means that this site has very bad rat infestations because rodents are known as a nocturnal animal. They are usually come out at night. If you see them during the day, it is very bad infestations. So for us, we do use smart traps. We do use a combination method to control the populations. For mosquito control or flies control, we rely heavily on inspection to locate the breeding sites. Even so, we do also combine with fogging treatments, water-based misting treatment. These are all chemical treatment. The latest technology that we are using, we also incorporate smart traps, such as the mosquito traps, that is very proactive because that we understand that chemical do have its harm onto the environment. That's why we also use a mosquito trap that does not contain chemicals to control the mosquito populations.
All right. So, my hope, Rave, is that, we're able to protect our investments. Because when we're talking about integrated pest management, it's not just us killing or getting rid of the pests. It's also about protecting people, properties, and the environment. And I know that, all the challenges, all the pest issues, all the solutions that Rave and I were discussing might seem a lot of work, right? But everything can be solved. All these pest issues, all these challenges can be solved from the get-go, all because you have a choice and you probably chose to build it right from the start. And that is why that is our masterclass this afternoon. Because, Raven, I believe that that is the power of, powerful, real, proactive pest management. And it may seem like a lot of work, but we're here to help you and to partner with you to do just that. And, having the right partner in terms of solving these issues is very critical. Raven and I were from Pest Busters, and we believe that together we can achieve our goals to protect people, property, and the environment through or from harmful pests. Now, to introduce Pest Busters, we have been in Singapore for more than 3 decades already. Can you imagine, right? And we provide comprehensive integrated pest management solutions, not just for commercial, but even for residential. And later on, we'll talk more about the sectors that we are present in. So what we do is that we design solutions based on the challenge, meaning it's not one size fits all. That's why earlier Raven and I really put a lot of effort and thought into discussing the biology or the science behind pests, because different pests will have different treatment methods, will require different lens, will require different types of inspection, right? So how you treat rodents and their burrows, right, establishing the perimeter. Yes, they establish the burrows underground, but the treatment or the method can be very different when you're dealing with termites, right? Yes, they're also underground, but they react to different active ingredients that will allow us to effectively manage these pests. And being in the industry, in the pest management industry for more than 3 decades, Rave, we've also received a lot of awards and certifications to allow us to serve you better. So maybe Ray, we can talk more about these.
Yes, Paula. Yes, it has been 3 decades. That's very long. Yeah. So throughout these 3 decades, we actually accumulate a number of awards and also certifications. We invest heavily in trainings of our technicians. That's why we've been awarded for Singapore Quality Class and People Developer. So just the fact that to share with you guys, PestBuster is actually the first on-job training centers among all the other pest control company, because we believe in quality services to our clients. And also, PestBusters has been awarded by SGBC as the leader by Vortex, because we believe in using green products in construction phases that helps in green certification of the buildings of our clients.
All right. So thank you for that, Rave. Now, you might be wondering, so how is it? How are we able to do that, right? So yes, we've been in the industry for more than 3 decades already. We have several awards and certifications, but our main goal at Pest Busters is to actually make a significant difference. So maybe Goldie, we can share the next screen in terms of the sectors that we're creating that difference in, right? And so in the beginning, more than 3 decades ago, Pestbusters really focused on hospitality in terms of, the rigorous 5-star audit requirements, us providing audit support, working with housekeeping, hygiene, engineering, and all these other departments. Since then, our suite of services has expanded and our capabilities have also leveled up in terms of handling a wider network of sectors. So closer to home would be in terms of construction. So that's why we were actually part of the Built Environment Expo last year. We got to meet a lot of players in terms of constructions, developers, contractors, and how, we discussed how it's very critical for us to invest in effective pest management. Of course, hospitality is there. Their capabilities in terms of handling the F&B industry. So may it be a one-off or like a whole league of branches. Of course, we're in retail and commerce, manufacturing for both food and non-food. We also have residential and commercial clients, utilities, education, and of course, healthcare. So how do we do that? And that is through making significant difference. It's really a triple threat in terms of combining all of these. Intelligent pest management process. We have different departments meant to cater to the different requirements of our clients, from operations support, business development, and of course for people and organization and finance. Coupling that with a deep knowledge of pest and their behavior, which we were discussing earlier, and of course using effective technology. And all of that together is effective to create that significant difference for our clients. And how we do it also, Rave, would be for our 5-step approach to integrated pest management, which perhaps you can briefly discuss to the group.
Yeah, Paula, thank you for sharing this earlier. So the strategy that we use is called the integrated pest management. Basically, what it means is that our technicians are trained to do inspections, and what they will do is that they will review what treatment they have done. Is it successful or not? If it's not successful, they will actually change to another methods. And this will be communicated directly with client to ensure that there's two-way communication so that expectation can be met and a pest-free environment can be built. This is the meaning of a 5-step approach that we use. It's a strategy that we use. It's very effective to help our clients. Yeah.
Yes. And I guess just to wrap it up, right, because we still need to do Q&A. These are the services that Pest Busters offers. Of course, we covered the general pest already earlier, as well as termite management, but there are also capabilities for other pests. Again, how Pest Busters does it is that we tailor fit the method, the proposal, the solution based on your requirement. And of course, if you have challenges, if you have problems at home, in your property, in your business, or even in your development, work with us. Let us know how we can get started. And I hope you learned a thing or two from our masterclass this afternoon. If you want to get a copy of our presentation, just scan the QR here so that you can get access to it. Again, thank you so much to BEX for having us this afternoon. Sue, take it away.
All right. So, Zian, to your question, will the slides be emailed out? You can just scan the QR code that's on screen right now to download the download the slides. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to Q&A. There's quite a number of questions that have come in from people, both online as well as those when you submitted during registrations. Some of the questions are similar, so I'll group them together. I guess a lot of times people think of pest management as something to do with your living environment, for facilities management. But actually, if you start earlier, it's more, the value is there, right? Making sure that instead of solving the termite problem when your cupboard is being eaten away 1 year after the building is done, making sure at the beginning of the project, you actually treat the area for termites. And this comes to a question. You mentioned earlier, Rafe, you inject chemicals into the soil to bind it together to make a non-permeable layer for termites. And you also have a product that you leave in the ground for as a termite trap. The question here is, for the injections, how long can it last? And do you require to re-inject into the soil as the construction phase goes on?
Hi, Sue. Thank you for the questions. First of all, appreciate the questions. Definitely, when you mentioned that the cost of repairing costs more than the treatment itself is actually true. Because the treatment is actually doesn't cost as much as to replace the entire cabinet. That actually costs a lot more. So back to the questions, how long would the treatment last? Okay, that is actually a very good question because these chemicals do not last forever. Okay, if chemical that lasts forever, that is very harmful to our health because imagine that you stay at the house for a long period of time, right? So to answer these questions, normally this chemical will last up to 7 years. There are chemicals for 5 years and 7 years, depend on the active ingredient that we use. So the short answer is 5 to 7 years, which then we need to review what kind of chemical we use to have the maximum efficacy to prevent termite from entering the house.
So for a construction project right at the beginning, when you're still doing your soil surveys and soil preparation, that's when you start doing it, and it should last you at least the construction period, right?
Yes, you are
Yeah,
right too.
unless of course it's a mega, $10 billion, 3,000 hectare kind of project. Now, a couple of questions here from the audience also would be how to plan for pest control early in Southeast Asia humid and flood risk environments, particularly for mosquitoes and other vermins.
Okay, let me take on these questions. Thank you, Sue, for again asking the questions again. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so for Southeast Asia, we do notice we are more of a tropical climate. There are rain, there are heat all year round. And this is actually the ideal breeding site for pests, especially flies, mosquito, and even rodents. Okay, so how do we be proactive against the pest situation here, right? Actually, we are already practicing using smart traps for our clients. So what does this smart trap do is that they'll actually alert us if let's say there are rodent problem in the premises. If let's say there are increased mosquito issues, we'll also be able to find out through the system that we use and will alert that, oh, there are more breeding site this month. So these are proactive initiative that we've been doing is using smart traps. Okay,
Yes.
and it's very effective so far. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess to add to what Ray was mentioning earlier, in Southeast Asia, we're very prime for these permits, right? And the simple answer to that is that there is no one size fits all for everything. And what's important is to request an inspection for your property so that we can assess, because there are unique landscaping, unique structural builds, unique limitations for every property. So once we come in, we'll conduct a health check. So that's an inspection. We'll make a full assessment in terms of what it is that your property will require from the get-go, and then at the same time provide you with a proposal in terms of how we can maintain for mosquitoes, for rodents, even for cockroaches and flying insects. So again, the best way for you to protect your property is, yes, first, number one is good housekeeping and sanitation, but secondly, it's actually to subscribe to effective pest management, and that starts with an inspection from, hopefully, such as from ours at Pest Busters.
Right. Now, this is a follow-up question with regards to technology. You mentioned smart traps. Do you require electrical supplies for these smart traps, or are they, install it and leave it till time's up?
Yes, thanks for questions. These smart traps actually they require maintenance and they require electrical supply. Yes, especially like electricity is required and it needs to be maintained and serviced by our technicians because the thing is that you need a trained personnel to be able to maintain these stations or smart traps.
Now, in terms of technology, what kind of technology is available that is scalable to fit an entire township or industry project? Imagine if you're a developer for a industrial facility or a, say, huge housing project or whole entire township project. What kind of scalable technology is available? And are there any GIS or IoT tools available for or viable for large scale pest monitoring?
So let me answer these questions. Thank you for asking these questions again. So for scalability, we currently do have clients that is a whole Singapore island-wide. We do have clients with location all around Singapore, and currently we are implementing these systems whereby we are able to track what are the infestation status of each locations. For example, we do have let's say mosquito issues, right? It happens all around this location, and this will form actually like a heat map that let us know this location has high infestations, whereby action can be taken to actually reduce the infestation status. So in terms of scalability, we have done so and it's totally feasible. And most importantly is that in Singapore context, the government is actually very open, or even the client themselves, they're open to new technologies. They actually invite us to actually try it at their sites. Okay, and I would say that it's totally scalability because the government here, they are open-minded. Okay, they will invite us to actually to share more about technologies and how do we improve the pest situation here, especially in Singapore context.
Yes, and I guess to just to add to what Ray shared earlier, at Pest Busters, we're happy to share that we invested in a technology that will allow us to handle large-scale pest management for the likes of, for example, town councils or even for large development for industrial parks. We are paperless. We went digital. We invested in mapping systems as well as geotagging to ensure that yes, we're able to track performance of our services and our ability to maintain, let's say, for rodent burrows or even for mosquito breeding sites in widespread areas. So there's capability in that also. So it's coupling technology, the right product, the right service, but also the quality or the performance of our technicians on the ground, who are, by the way, of course, heavily trained by our training and innovations team as well.
So we've still got questions coming in. We've got about 7 more minutes. So keep those questions coming in. I'll try to take as many questions as possible. For those questions that we don't get a chance to answer at the end of the session, we'll hand them over to Pestbusters and they will follow up with you. Now, one of the questions from the live audience here is, from a pre-handover state of construction to an operationally ready building, what are the good practices to be implemented to keep infestations of any kind at bay? And which also, may I add here, another question of my own. You mentioned that a lot of these pest issues, they come because of poor housekeeping on the construction site. So how does your team work with the contractors and the people on site to make sure that they do keep these good practices best practices, they do it on a daily basis because, sometimes people just, I'll just toss a can instead of throwing it into the bin. So what are some of the challenges and what are the best practices?
Okay, hi, thanks. So let me answer these questions here. So I believe the first part of your question is asking how do we maintain a pest control situations, right, throughout the different stages of the construction site. So what we have here is that we do offer a tailor-fit program for our partners, especially in a construction site. We do need to understand what's the site situation look like. Is there any other locations that prone to infestation? Let's say stagnant water can accumulate. Because just to share, we do have cases whereby secondary roof is being built. Let's say it's a worker dormitory. These places can breed mosquito. Okay, what we do is that we do have an inspection to look at where are the locations that can breed pests. Okay, and then we communicate through with our clients to ensure that proactive measure is being practiced to address the problems, and then drop with a tailor-fit program, which is like frequency of the methods, the application method to actually control the pest populations in the construction phases throughout the stages of constructions.
Okay, so that means you go in, do an audit, get the
Yeah.
lay of the land, make sure you do a threat analysis, and then you identify them and you put a plan
Yes.
around that threat analysis.
Yeah, and then Sue, just to add to what Rave mentioned
Mhm.
also, I'm talking about, let's say, the pre-handover period, right? So
Mhm.
it's being handed over from contractor to, let's say, the developer or the actual owner. So at Pest Busters, we do offer services such as an initial flush out or what we call an IFO. So it's very critical before an establishment, a building, or a property is going to be used already for public or for families or whatever. We come in. It's the same process in terms of assessment, initial assessment, and documenting the requirements. But sometimes, if there is a handover from a contractor, an initial flush out is necessary to basically dramatically drop the population of pests, if any, inside the property. So again, when you subscribe to a pest management provider, what we want to do is get to a preventive maintenance state. However, if we're coming from a state wherein there's high infestation, we need to be able to control it and manage it through a flush out method. And again, that's to drastically drop the population so that we're able to maintain the property month on month. So that's how you subscribe into a system and to ensure that, we're able to maintain the condition of the property moving forward.
And of course, if you had started your pest management even at the construction stage, so by the time you reach TOP, it shouldn't have that much of a problem.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and the next question here is on termites. What is the best solution for furniture affected by termites infestation, and can dry wood termite cause damage to furniture?
Okay, so maybe Rave, I can take that question. I think what's very important to understand with termite is we need to be able to identify first the species of the termite that we're dealing with. So earlier, Rave spoke about subterranean termites, which are commonly found underneath. So they live on the soil. That's why it's subterranean. It's underground, right? But if you're dealing with furniture, wooden furniture, sometimes what you're dealing with would be what we call a dry wood termite. And this is a completely different type of species and will require a completely different type of methods. The thing about dry wood termite is that they can be very difficult to control because what they do is that they establish their colony inside the furniture. So that's where they lay their eggs. So as they spread and then they infiltrate and then they go up, they manifest, right? And so that's a completely different method that may be through foaming or soil injection, right? Through the cracks and crevices. But the thing about drywood termite is that's why it's very important that we assess it first because we'll also be making recommendations whether or not that wood is for disposal or can we still maintain it through existing methods. Rave, anything else on drywood?
Yeah, thank you, Paula, for highlighting that. Definitely, dry wood termite is a great challenge in our industry. Because the thing is that it's about the biology of the termite. Because termites, this type of termite, they live inside the wood panel. And normal residual treatment actually, there's a limitation to how much it can actually kill the termites. Okay, that's why it's important for us to do an assessment first to see the situation. Is it a residual treatment can be done or foaming treatment can be done to resolve the problem before we advise further action plan, which is to replace the furniture in this case.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, if it's the cost of the furniture, if it's a, MDF kind of furniture, which is cheap to replace, you might want to replace it. But of course, if it's something, or a family heirloom, for example,
Yeah.
right? Unless, of course, your furniture is made of, you were saying teak wood, right? Teak wood is not,
Mm,
but teak wood is, of course, very hard to come by these days.
mm.
All right. And we got perhaps time for one more last question here. I guess this is more of a personal question for this person. What kind of treatments should be done before moving into a 43-year-old resale HDB flat?
Oh, wow. That is Rave.
Okay.
Perhaps you want to take that on.
Yeah. So let me answer these questions. I mean, we are not new to these questions or problem. We have been in industry for 33 years, again, 3 decades, right? We have heard cases whereby old building actually has more cases of pest problem, and this is actually can be explained by facilities, because over time facilities will actually worn off, like pay, and the maintenance of the property might have gone bad, especially if there's not sufficient bin chute treatment or manhole treatment, which then actually will see an increase of pest problem, such as the cockroach problem. Yeah. So what type of treatment can be done for old, I believe this is an individual unit lah, that you are saying. So what can be done most importantly is that we do have inspection service first to identify what the problem that the flat is facing. Yeah. After we diagnose it, okay, we'll then do a treatment, what we call the ULV misting. This is a residual treatment that has 2 to 3 weeks efficacy and residual effect. Okay, if there's any pest there, let's say it's cockroach, it's ants, it's beetle, this will be killed off also. And speaking which, just to share that for all flats, not only pest problem you encounter, sometimes you will also encounter mold problem. Okay,
Mm.
mold problem due to high humidity that's happened over time. For us, we do also have a mold treatment which we use a micro bio treatment to kill the mold spore in this building. So for us, we do offer a series of treatment inspection service to ensure that this problem can be resolved. But again, this questions is not new to us. We face a lot of buildings units that are old and have reoccurrence of pest problem. That's why we also do provide like a monthly maintenance service to ensure that the pest problem are being managed.
Okay, I was gonna take that as a last question because 43-year-old flat has their central refuge. Don't have a central refuge chute. But I think this is a pretty touchy question. I will still take it up. I hope you guys don't mind. Attendee here said that they've come across weekly pest control frequencies in construction sites, which can sometimes be inadequate given the nature of construction. Every day something new is being built, something changes on site. And largely, and sometimes these pest control officers are walking around unmotivated and aimlessly doing treatment. These are largely due to how contract was being spelled out. Question: are there any talks with authorities to set some minimum expectations to the frequencies and outcome? Okay, Rafe.
Yeah. So regarding this, I believe is mentioning of the technicians officers are being unmotivated while they are doing a treatment, right? Yeah. So for in this
And I think
case,
it's not just that. I think the question here is even once a week, sometimes it's not sufficient because construction site changes. So you could, for example, if I were to take a look at it from, say, mosquito breeding, right? Today there was this puddle of water here. You addressed it, but because you're digging somewhere else or building some other part of the building, stagnant water now appears on another part of the building. That becomes another, breeding ground.
Yeah. So I guess, Rave, let me take this question, right? So I definitely agree that there are a lot of instances wherein a once a week frequency for mosquito treatment is not even enough already, considering there are a lot of changes, a lot of movement in deadlines and schedules in construction, which is, of course, inevitable. Now, how do we address something like this, right? It's very critical that from the get go, in terms of the conversation with the contractor, we're able to establish expectations. I agree. If we can make it more than once a week, definitely, I'm for that, right? Because we need to make sure that the entire site is protected, or that there's regular frequencies in terms of inspections coupled with the actual treatments. But one thing that we also need to understand when we're dealing with construction site, it's how do we work hand in hand with the end users, with the contractors? Because it's not just about the inspection and the treatment. If you remember earlier when we're talking about the pest biology of mosquitoes or even for flies, right? It's very critical to understand the sanitation and good housekeeping within the site. So it has to be a combination of us working hand in hand with our clients, our end users, to ensure that our site is properly protected. It's going to be, I guess, a combination of these different solutions. We do have a thing which we call the assessment. And during the assessment period, we're able to communicate, we're able to discuss with contractors in terms of what it is that we should be able to do. What are our roles, right? What's the role of the pest control provider, and what's the role of the contractor in ensuring that our spaces are safe? Not just because it's mandated or it's going to be fined if we don't do it, but because we truly want it to be safe for our team members and our workers as well. And in relation to, of course, having our technicians really pumped up, right? It's all about educating them and training them to ensure that they understand their impact to the service that it's being done. And at Pestbusters, we're proud to share that, of course, we have dedicated entomologists and trainers who conduct, technical training for technicians to ensure they are ready, and at the same time, they're capable of addressing concerns on site.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very, yep,
Paula, let me
yep.
add to that. Paula, so I believe the question is that are there any talks with the authorities to set some minimum expectations, right? So at Pestbusters, we do have regular meetings with the project manager on the site to understand what are problems that they face on the site. Because what happens is that the last thing that we want is a stop work order from the NEA site. Okay, when they stop work order, the site need to stop any work for 2 to 3 weeks, and this can cause heavy economic losses to the main contractors. So what we do is that we do have regular meetings with the project manager to understand if our technician is not doing a good service, is there a way to improve it? Is there any area that we need to be highlighted so that breeding can be reduced, mosquito breedings, rat breedings, this side need to be reduced lah. So that there's just to share this actually an existing protocol that we have. We have been regularly talking with project manager on site to solve the problems such as unmotivated technicians, maybe the service that they deliver is not up to expectations, is always under active communications throughout this phase.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's about all the time we have today. So I hope you've learned quite a fair bit about all the creepy crawlies and the danger they bring to your construction site, to your return on investment and your reputation, the discipline that's needed to make sure that your construction site, even I can fog even every day, but if your people are not following best practices, it's not going to be that helpful. Any last words from Paula and Rave before we close off?
Yes, definitely. Thank you again, Sue, and the entire BEX Asia team for having us this afternoon. Rave and I are very honored to be able to host this masterclass for everyone. I hope you learned a lot from, pest biology, pest awareness, and the importance of integrated pest management for your property. Again, you can always reach out to us. Check us out on our website at pestbusters.com.sg to learn more about our solutions, and even reach out to us for a free inspection. Thank you, Sue.
Hey, Paula, Rave, any last words from you?
Hi everyone, thank you for staying this one on to listen to our masterclass. Definitely, I hope that there's been a lot of takeaways for you guys. Most importantly is that we do tailor fit our programs for our partners to keep a pest-free environment for them. So if let's say there's any questions that you would like to ask, you can always drop us an email and we'll respond to it accordingly.
Thank you very much to Paula, Rave, and Pest Busters. And thank you to all our attendees for joining our masterclass. Do keep a lookout for our next masterclass by EBM Pubs happening next month. And for all of you who will be enjoying the holiday tomorrow, if you're traveling overseas, please stay safe. Stay away from the creepy crawlies. And don't forget that BEX Asia is happening again this year from the 3rd to 5th of September at the Sense Expo and Convention Center, alongside together with the International Built Environment Week conference program, which is known as Expert Series, focusing a lot this year on best practices, case studies, and deep dives into specific areas of construction efficiency, digital construction, and sustainability. We'll see you again in the next masterclass as well as BEX Asia in September. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day ahead. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye bye.
everyone.